Hello students, so this is the next chapter for week 6. In this week we are going to start with a new chapter which is chapter 2 and it's protocol architecture. We are going to talk about the internet model, data and computer the model which is used by the computer networks. So we are going to talk in this chapter about protocol architecture, what is TCP/IP model and the internet based applications. So let's start with the chapter. Alright, now in the network topology, what we have learned so far is that we have a sender and a receiver, and the sender wants to send the message to the receiver, and that is sent through many hops, through many routers and many switches. So in this chapter basically we are going to talk about the layered protocol architecture and TCP/IP, which is the internet based protocol suite and is the framework for developing a complete range of computer communication standards. So these are the things we are going to talk about. Now data flow I will skip for a while in this slide, because this is what we are going to talk in this chapter, the whole of this chapter. This is an example of the internet model. So this is an example of the internet model. What are the various layers in the TCP/IP model, and how do they interact, how the layer between the sender and the receiver interact. So this shows actually the data flow. Now this diagram will be clear after we finish with the layers of the TCP/IP model. So I will explain in more detail after we finish with all the layers. So let's start with this. What is a protocol architecture? Now what is a protocol architecture? Let's consider some scenario. For example, when computers, terminals or any other data processing devices, they are connected to each other to exchange data, the procedures involved can be quite complex. In normal human to human communication, for example, if I want to communicate with you, we must have few protocols also. But that's quite easy. But when it comes to exchange of information between the devices, between the computers, it's quite complex. Now consider an example. For example, you want to transfer a file between two computers. You want to send a file from one computer to the another. So first thing is, there must be a path between the two computers, either directly or it should be via a communication network. So what you need to do is, what is required when you want to transfer the file from the source system to the sender system is, the source system should be either activated on a direct data communication path. Source system must know that destination system is prepared to receive the data. Then the application that you are using to transfer the file must ascertain that the file management program on the receiver system is prepared to accept the file. And now if the file formats used on two systems are different, then there should be a translation functions. But for us it seems to be very easy process when we want to send a file, but actually it's a very complex process when we see from the point of view of the computer. So it is clear that there should be a cooperation between the sender system and the receiver system. So instead of implementing some rules or logics on a single module, the task is broken up into subtasks and each of the tasks is implemented separately. So what is a protocol architecture? It's a layered structure. So this is what I told you, that instead of having implementing the protocol or the logic, for example, I consider a very simple example of transferring a file. So instead of implementing this logic into as a single module, the task is broken up into subtasks and each of these subtasks is implemented separately. So what is protocol architecture? The layered structure of hardware and software. So it's a layered structure. Layered means it is arranged in various layers. That means the task is broken down into many subtasks. The layered structure of the hardware and the software. It's not only hardware, it's not only software, rather it's combination of both that supports the exchange of data between the systems and supports distributed applications such as electronic mail and the file transfer is called as the protocol architecture. So in protocol architecture, modules are arranged in a vertical stack. This is vertical, this is horizontal. So modules are arranged in a vertical stack. Each layer in a stack performs a subset of the functions. Now let's, for example, consider an example taking an admission into a college. You might have come taking an admission into a college or pursuing your degree. Now there are various tasks. First thing is you have to apply for the registration. You come to the registration office, you submit your documents, then they give you the admission. So again, the task of admission is handled by the registration office. Then the teaching is handled by various teachers of the various departments. So if you see, it's a task of taking a degree is broken down into many subtasks. So this is what I mean to say. So each layer in the stack, it performs a related subset functions. Now, in protocol architecture, it relies on the next lower layer to perform more primitive functions, and it provides the services to the next higher layer. So what happens in protocol? What do we mean by protocol architecture? That means the task of sending a file from system A to system B is broken down into many subtasks. And we have layers, the subtasks. These subtasks are arranged in the form of vertical layer. Each layer is performing some function and it is offering the services to the next higher layer. So the lower layer, the bottom layer offers some services to the next higher layer, then this layer offers some services to the next higher layer, and so on. And moreover, layers should be defined so that changes in one layer do not require changes in other layer. This is very important. For example, you are here for getting a BS degree. Now, changes in one layer. So for example, we are teaching. For example, now in this case, in this pandemic, we have changed our teaching from classroom learning to the online learning. So that means the layer of teaching has been changed, but it has not affected the other layers. It has not affected the process of getting your degree. It has not affected the process of academic affairs. It has not affected the process of registration. So this is the main important function of the layers also in the protocol architecture. Alright, so moving ahead, the need for the protocol architecture. Why we need the protocol architecture? This is what we have learned until now. The source must activate, because if, for example, if we consider an example of transferring the data, several tasks must be performed. Source must activate communication path, inform the network. Source must make sure that destination is prepared to receive the data. File transfer application on a source must confirm the file management, and a format translation function should perform the translation also. So this is what I explained in the previous slide. So functions of the protocol architecture. Now what is a protocol architecture? It's a layered structure consisting of hardware and software which is required for exchanging the data between the two devices. So protocol architecture, what it does, it breaks the logic into the subtasks modules which are implemented separately. For example, if I say if I give you a group project, so in that case, if the main task is doing a group project, so you can break down that task of making a group project into the subtasks by dividing the work between yourself. Now when you are dividing the work between yourself, you have certain logic, or you have certain protocols, or you have certain rules how you, for example, the first person will do X task, second person will do Y task, and how you are going to communicate, whether you are going to communicate with the phone or through WhatsApp messages or whatever the mode of communication you are using. So Coming to the computer networks or the computer communications, protocol architecture, it breaks the logic into the subtasks module, and each of these module is implemented separately. So for example, in the group project, each of you is doing your tasks separately. Modules are arranged in a vertical stack. Each layer in the stack performs a subset of the function. So if I take an example of the group project, you are performing a subset of a function. That means you are performing a subtask which is related to the main task. And each layer relies on the next lower layer for the primitive function. And changes in one layer should not require the changes in another layer. For example, one of you is making a documentation, one of you has to prepare a report. So for example, if the person who is preparing the report either by handwriting or by typing will not affect the other person's task. This is the meaning of saying for the last point. That means if we change the technology in one of the layer, it will not affect the functioning of the layer. So this is the last point. Okay, going ahead. Now, what are the key features of the communication? Okay, so it takes two to communicate so that the same set of layered function must exist in the two systems, and the communication is achieved by having the corresponding or peer layers in the two systems to communicate. Peer layers communicate by means of the formatted blocks of data that obey a set of rules, which is known as the protocol. So what is a protocol? Basically, protocol is a set of rules. This is what I said in the previous slide. When you are doing a project, group project, you have broken down the task. Now you have certain rules to establish a set of communication between you, that you are going to send an email, or you are going to use WhatsApp or whatever, or you are going to meet once in a week through Zoom or any other application. So a protocol is a set of rules or conventions that allow peer layers to communicate. Peer layers means the layers working at the same level. For example, you are doing the subtask of the project at the same level. So the key features of the protocol are, the three main features of the protocol are its syntax, semantics and timing. Syntax means how to write or the format of the data blocks. So that is called as the syntax. Semantics means what does the information conveys. Control information for coordination and error handling. And timing means it should match the speed, matching and sequencing. So it includes speed, matching and sequencing. So these are the three key features of the protocol. Alright, let's talk about a simple protocol. For example, in case of distributed data communication, we take an example of the distributed data communication. It can be said to involve three agents. So the three agents that are involved in the distributive data communication are applications, computers and networks. Example of application, it includes file transfer, email, and these applications, they execute on the computers that support multiple simultaneous applications. Now computers are connected to the networks and the data to be exchanged are transferred by the network from one computer to the another. So thus the transfer of data from one application to the another involves first getting the data to the computer in which the application is present, and then getting to the intended application within the computer. So example of application is file transfer, and these applications execute on computers that support multiple simultaneous application, not only one application. So multiple simultaneous means many applications which can be used at the same time. So now with these concepts in mind, we need to organize the communication task into three very important, relatively important independent layers. Now, what are these layers? Network access layer, transport layer, and application layer. So the three layers, which are network access layer, transport layer, and the application layer. Now the purpose of the network access layer is concerned with exchange of data, that means transferring of data. Transport layer, it provides reliable data transfer. Reliable means it should be trusted. So trustable data transfer between the devices. Application layer, it contains the logic to support applications. So the user application, the applications or the apps which are used by the user to perform some task. So application layer contains the logic to support the applications. Now we are going to discuss these three layers one by one. So first of all, we will start with the network layer. Now what is network layer? Network layer covers the exchange of data between the end system and the network that is attached to. So in a network, we not only have the communicating devices, rather in the network we have many things. We have routers, we have switches, we have hubs, we have many other things. We have links, transmission links, which are connecting the two end systems. So going much in details, so the network access layer is concerned with the exchange of data between a computer and the network to which it is attached. Sending network must provide a network with the address of the destination computer. So just like when you are writing an email, you have in the to field, you have to provide the address, email address of the person to whom you want to send the email. So the sending computer must provide the network with the address of the destination computer. So it's not we, it is done by our router or our MAC card or the network interface card automatically. So the sending computer must provide the network address with the address of the destination computer so that the network may route the data to the appropriate destination. So this is the destination address provision. Next is invoking specific services like priority. So the sending computer may wish to invoke certain services such as priority. That means high priority. This email is high priority. That might be provided by the network. So the specific software used at this layer depends upon the type of network we are using. Different standards have been developed for circuit switching, packet switching, local area networks and others. For example, IEEE 802 is a standard that specifies the access to the local area network. So this standard we will cover later, and we may cover it later. Now network layer is also concerned with the issues like it accesses to and routes the data across the network between the two systems. So by having all the functions of networking in a separate layer, the remainder of the communication software above the network access layer need to be concerned about specifics of the network, need not to be concerned about the specifics of the network. So other two layers, which are the transport layer and the application layer, they need not to be concerned about the network specifications of the network, because the network specifications or the network issues or the network tasks, they are already handled by the network access layer. So moving ahead, now we have another layer which is the transport layer. So regardless of the nature of the application that are exchanging the data, so regardless of the applications, for example, you use WhatsApp, you use Facebook, you use emo, you use many type of, you use Gmail, you use Yahoo, many type of applications you use for exchanging the data. So regardless of the nature of the applications that are exchanging data, there is usually a requirement that the data to be exchanged, it should be reliable. So it is concerned with providing reliable delivery of data. Transport layer is responsible for providing the reliable delivery of data. That means we would like to be assured that all the data arrive at the destination application and the data arrive in the same order in which they are sent. So for example, if I send you a message that tomorrow is the test, so the message should be sent as it is, reliable delivery. It should be sent to you and it should be sent the way I have written. That is called as the reliable delivery. It's a common layer which is shared by all the applications. Now, the mechanism for providing reliability are essentially independent of the nature of the application. So it is independent of the nature of the application. So it makes sense to collect those mechanisms in common layer which are shared by all applications, and that is called as the transport layer. So it is essentially independent of the nature of the application. So transport layer should not depend upon the type of application. For example, email we have many different types. We have photos, we have email, we have WhatsApp, messengers, instant messaging. So transport layer should not be designed specifically for the applications. Rather, it should be a generalized layer which should be independent of the nature of the applications. So moving ahead, application layer. We all are familiar with the application layer. Finally, the application layer, it contains the logic that is needed to support the various users' application. It separates the module that is needed for each type of application. For example, for each type of application such as file transfer, a separate module is needed that is peculiar to that application. So moving ahead. So this is the figure which shows a simple architecture of the network. So this figure shows the simple architecture of the network. Now we will understand this figure in detail. So in this figure, what we have three computers. This is computer A, this is computer B, and this is computer C. These three computers are connected to each other with the help of the communication network, and if you see, the three layers have been shown on these three systems. So let me just explain you quickly. For example, on computer A, if you see the application, we have application layer at the top, then transport layer, then network layer. So on computer A, there are only two applications which are currently running. On computer B, there are three applications currently running. Applications are nothing but your software which you use. For example, you are using an email, you are using an Outlook, you are using a PowerPoint or some other, or you are using a Google web search engine, something like this. And on the system, there are four applications which are currently running. Now let's understand this figure in detail. Each computer contains a software at the network access and the transport layer and at the application layer for one or more applications. So there is a software for network access, for transport layer, and for the applications. Now for successful communication, every entity in the overall system must have a unique address. Now computer A should have a unique address, computer B should have a unique address, computer C should have a unique address. For example, for a successful functioning of a class, I may have, for example, let me consider an example. I may have three girls named Sarah in my class. Now, how can I recognize them? With the help of their unique student ID number, which is given to you by registration department. So same thing happens in the computer network also. Each computer has its unique address. So in order to make a communication effective, each system or each device should have a unique address. Now in this 3-layer model, we are just discussing this 3-layer model, which has 3 layers: application layer, transport layer and the network layer. So in 3-layer model, 2 levels of addressing are needed. So in a 3-layer model, we must have 2 levels of addressing. First type of addresses, each computer on the network should have a network address. Normally we call it as a IP address. You might have heard this term also. So each computer on a network has a unique network address. So this network address is called as its IP address. This network address allows the network to deliver the data to the proper computer. So when computer A wants to deliver data to the computer C, it will send the data with the destination address or the unique address of the computer C. So this will help the network to deliver the data to the computer C. Each application on a computer has an address that is unique within that computer. Now each application, now when we are running an application, each application also should have some address, so that data should be delivered to that application only. For example, if you are sending an email to your friend, then that email should be delivered to the email application only. If you are sending a WhatsApp message, that WhatsApp message should be delivered to the WhatsApp only. So this is called as application address also. Each application has a unique address within that computer. So this allows the transport layer to support multiple applications at each computer. So this helps because of this, transport layer can support multiple applications. These addresses are known as service access points or ports. Now to sum up, network layer uses the addresses which are called as network address or the IP address. Transport layer uses the addresses which are called as ports. Now these ports are used by the transport layer for delivering the data to the correct application. For delivering the data to the correct application. Now in this figure, the modules at the same level on the different computer, if you see over here, application protocol in computer C is interfaced with application layer on computer A. Transport layer on computer A is interfaced with transport layer in computer C, and same way network layer is interfaced with all the 3 systems. So modules at the same level. What are the modules at the same level? These are called as peer. Application layer at computer C, application layer at computer A, application layer at computer B, transport layer at computer C, transport layer at computer A, and transport layer at computer B. Network access layer at computer C, network access layer at computer A, and network access layer at computer B. These are all the peers on different computers that communicate with each other with the help of a protocol. Now, an application entity, for example, file transfer application in one computer communicates with an application in another computer with the help of the application level protocol, for example, file transfer protocol. Now, the interchange is not direct. It is not directly transferred, but it is helped by the transport protocol that handles many of the details of transferring the data between the 2 computers. Transport protocol is also not direct, but it depends on the network layer protocol. It depends upon the network layer protocol to achieve the network access and to send data or route data through the network to the destination system. And at each level, the cooperating peer entities focus on what they need to communicate with each other. So this is how it happens in this architecture. Going ahead, so it's more simplified protocols architecture. So let's understand this architecture or the protocols in a more simplified way. This is computer A and this is computer B. Let's understand a scenario. We have same thing, application layer, transport layer and the network access layer. Alright, so let's try to do a simple message sending operation. Now suppose that an application from computer A using the port number 1. Port number is for the application. So an application associated with port number 1 at computer A, it wants to send message to another application associated with port 2 at computer B. So let's understand the problem first of all. For example, an application in computer A using the port number 1 wants to send a data to the computer B using the application with port 2. So how it is going to send? The application at A hands the message. First of all, the application layer will hand the message to the transport layer. The application at A hands over the message to the transport layer with the instruction to send it to port 2 on computer B. Now what this transport layer will do? The transport layer will hand the message over to the network access layer, which will instruct the network to send the message to the computer B. So this transport layer will hand over the message to the network access layer to send with all the instructions to send it to the computer B. Now, network need not to be told the identity of the destination port. All that the network layer needs to know is the address of the computer B. Alright, so when application layer sends this data to the transport layer, it just sends the message that I want to send this message to the computer B. So what transport layer will do? Transport layer will encapsulate the data, or it put the data in a packet. So what it will do? It will put the data, and now it will write the port number of the application, that it is from the application 1 to the application 2. It is from the application 1 using port number 1 to the application using port number 2. Now this information from the transport layer will be sent to the network access layer. Now what this network access layer will do? It will take all this data and now put it in another packet. Now what network layer will add? It will add the address of the destination computer and the address of the source computer. That means it is from computer A to computer B. Now this message will be sent on the communication network over here. It may travel through various links, various routers, various hubs. So to control this operation, control information as well as the user data. So we see that sending application generates a block of data. If you see over here, sending application has generated a block of data and passed this to the transport layer. Now what the transport layer has done? Transport layer has broken this block into two smaller pieces, and to each pieces the transport layer has done the transport header. The transport header is nothing but the port numbers. So the addition of control information to the data is called as encapsulation. This is called as encapsulation. Alright, so moving ahead, now coming to addressing. Two levels of addressing are using. In the previous slide that we have learned that the encapsulation, so the combination of the data from the next higher layer and the control information is known as protocol data unit. Now if I go back, transport layer receives data from the application layer. It adds some control information like port number. network layer receives data from the transport layer, it adds some control information. So the combination of the data from the next higher layer and the control information is called as the protocol data unit, or we call it as PDU. So in this case it is referred to as the transport PDU. Transport PDUs, they are called as segment. So each PDU has a name also given to it. So transport layer PDUs are called as segment, and the header in each segment contains control information to be used by the peer transport protocols at computer B. So each computer on the network also has a unique address, and each application has an address that is unique that computers, service access providers or ports can use. So the combination of data and control information is a protocol data unit, PDU. PDU is used by the peer transport layer protocol at computer B. Now what does PDU contains? What does a PDU unit contain? So headers, the PDU may contain source port, destination port, sequence number and error detection code. Now what are these? What does these signifies? Source port. Source port refers to the port number of the source application or the source computer. This indicates the application that has sent the data. Destination port. This indicates the port number of the application to which the data should be delivered. Sequence number, because we know that the transport layer protocol data unit, they can be broken down into small pieces. So each piece must have a sequence number for its identification. So it numbers the sequence of segments sequentially so that if they arrive out of order, destination can put them in order before it is delivered to the application layer. Then we have error detection code, or we call it as a checksum. Now error detection code. Now we have learned in chapter number 3 various types of noises and impairments, that certain errors may be introduced to the data. So while we are sending data from system A to system B, there are chances that errors are introduced in this data that is sent from system A to system B. So if, for example, the destination system receives data that is faulty or it does not convey the correct information, no use of that data. So on the destination system, there is a mechanism called error detection code. It is a code, it is a software that is a function of the contents of the segment. So the receiver, the transport layer at the receiver system, it performs some calculations on the data and it compares the result with the incoming code. So if it matches, that means it does not have the data. So the receiving system has this facility, error detection code. Now let's talk about PDU in detail over here. So let's understand this diagram, which is the protocol data units in the TCP/IP architecture. At the top it is the application layer and transport layer, and this is the network layer. So network level, this is the network level packet which is generated. So let's understand it. Now let's assume that sending process has generated a block of data. It has written some application or it has written some message. Now that message will be sent to the transport layer. Now at the transport layer, we assume that the transmission control protocol, it's a protocol we will discuss later in the slides. Let's assume that TCP, it is handled by TCP now. TCP will break this block into smaller pieces so that the pieces become more manageable. So if you see, TCP may break this data into smaller pieces and it will add the TCP header also. TCP also adds control information which is called as the TCP header. Some control information for error checking or some other information. So this whole is called as now TCP segment. The control information used by the TCP layer at the receiving system or at other system will include, for example, the items in this TCP header. What it will include? It may include the destination port number. That means the port number of the application for which it is intended. Sequence number, TCP numbers the segments that it sends to destination port sequentially, so that if they arrive out of order, for example, it has 10 segments to send, so at the receiving system, first of all segment number 7th is received, then 8, then 1, then 5, then 6, and so on. So at the receiving system, this numbering will help the receiving system to arrange these segments in order and to deliver the message correctly to the application layer. Checksum. Sending TCP includes a code also, which is the error correction code, so that if at the receiving system to check whether the message that is sent by the user is same or there is some change in the message. After that, TCP will hand over the TCP segment to the IP layer, which is called as the network layer, with the instructions to transmit it to the system B. Now these segments must be transmitted maybe across one or more subnetworks, and it can be passed through many routers also. So the operation also requires use of the control information. So network layer adds its own header, which is called as the IP header, to form a IP datagram. So it forms a IP datagram. So the items stored in the IP header are destination host address, for example, the IP address of the destination. Finally, each IP datagram is presented to the network access layer. It forms a packet to the network access layer for transmission across the subnetwork in its journey, and the network access layer appends its own header, creating a packet or a frame. Packet is transmitted to the next router, and so on. This is how the information is transmitted. So after receiving the segment from the transport layer, the network access protocol must request the transmission over the network, and the network access protocol creates a network access PDU with the control information. The network access PDU is called as the IP datagram, or it is also called as the packet, whereas on the transport layer, PDU is called as the segment. Now, what does the network access protocol header includes? It includes source computer address, the address of the sending computer, destination computer address, address of the computer to which data needs to be sent, and other facilities such as priority and many other facilities also. So protocol architecture. So let's talk about TCP IP protocol architecture. First of all, the full form of TCP IP. TCP IP stands for Transmission Control Protocol, Internet Protocol. So this is a model which is used by the computer network for performing the communication. So TCP IP is a result of protocol research and development conducted on the experimental packet switch network, that is ARPANET. So it is a result of protocol research and development conducted on the ARPANET. This ARPANET project was funded by the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency in USA, and it is generally referred to as the TCP IP protocol suite. This protocol suite, this is referred to as the protocol suite. This protocol suite consists of large number of protocols that have been issued as Internet standards by the Internet Activities Board. So it comprises of a large number of protocols that are Internet standards. So in this, now in the next slides, we are going to talk about these protocols. So let's talk about the layers and the protocols used at each layer. So let's talk in detail about it. In general terms, now computer communication can be said to involve three agent: applications, computers, and networks. So example of applications include file transfer, email, and many other applications. Applications that we are concerned with here are distributed applications that involve the exchange of data between two computer systems. These applications execute on the computers Also, now the computers are connected to the networks and data to be exchanged are transferred by the network from one computer to the another. So, the transfer of data from one application to the another involves first taking the data, getting the data to the computer in which there is application, and then sending the data to the application to the other computer. So, with all these tasks, we can divide or reorganize the communication task into 5 independent layers. What are these layers? I will start from the bottom and go up to the top. These are the 5 layers of the TCP IP model. This is called as the TCP IP model, or we call it as the internet model also. So, the 5 layers in the TCP IP model are physical layer, network access layer, internet layer, transport layer, and the application layer. So these are the 5 layers in the TCP IP model. So let's just talk about each of these layers precisely. We will talk about them in detail later. So I repeat the layers from bottom to top: physical layer, network access layer, internet layer, transport layer, and application layer. Physical layer is the first layer, network access layer is the second layer, then it is the internet layer is the third layer, transport layer is the fourth layer, and application layer is the fifth layer. So the physical layer, what is the purpose of the physical layer? It transmits transmission of bit stream. It specifies the medium, it specifies the signal encoding technique, it specifies the bandwidth and the data rate. So the physical layer covers the physical interfaces between the data transmission, for example workstation and a computer, and the transmission medium. If you can recall chapter 4 where we talked about transmission medium, and chapter 3 where we talked about data transmission, where we talked about data rate, bandwidth, and many other properties, all these are handled by the physical layer. So what are the protocols used at physical layer? The protocols used are the wires, wireless media or the wired media. So this is your chapter 4 which we have already finished: twisted pair cables, optical fiber cables, satellite and terrestrial microwave, all the guided and the unguided media. Next comes the network access layer. Now this layer is also called as data link layer. This is also called as data link layer or the network access layer. That is one and the same thing. So what is the purpose? It logically interfaces to the actual network hardware, and maybe it is a stream or packet oriented, and it is to provide the reliable delivery. So the network access or the data link layer is concerned with access to and routing data across the network with the two-end system. So where the two devices are attached to different network, procedures are needed to allow the data for the internet connection. And the protocols used by this layer are Ethernet, Wi-Fi, ATM, frame relay. Out of these 4 you might be familiar with these 2. Next layer is the internet layer, or we also call this layer as the network layer. This layer is also called as the, sometimes you will find it that it is also called as the network layer. So the network layer, it shields higher layers from details of physical network, provides routing and many other quality of service and the congestion control. So the IP is used at this layer to provide routing functions across multiple networks. Protocol is implemented not in the end system but also in the router, and router is nothing but a device that connects two networks, and the primary function of the router is to send data from one network to the another. And the protocols used are IPv4, which is IP version 4 addressing, IPv6, ARP. Some of the other protocols are ICMP, OSPF and RSVP. The next higher layer or the 4th layer is the transport layer. It is also called as host to host layer. So it transfers the data between the endpoints, and it may provide error control, flow control, congestion control, and reliable control. So and the protocols, two protocols used at this layer are TCP and UDP. TCP stands for Transmission Control Protocol. UDP stands for User Datagram Protocol. So these are the two protocols. Most commonly protocol used is TCP, Transmission Control Protocol. The last layer is finally the application layer. It contains the logic needed to support the various user applications. For each user type of application, such as file transfer, separate module is needed. So it provides the logic needed by the various applications. So various application protocols are SMTP, FTP, SSH, HTTP, most of the time used by you to access the web. So these are some of the protocols used. Now let me go to the first slide, which I skipped to explain. So these are the 5 layers, very important 5 layers of the TCP IP model. Now this process. Now the first layer, topmost layer, application, it works between process to process. That means it is between application to application. Transport layer is also called as host to host layer because it provides reliable end-to-end service. So it is providing the end-to-end service. Internet layer and the link layer, they are commonly related to, they are called as the network to network. From one network to another network, from second network to the third network, from third network and to the fourth network. So the application layer works from process to process, that means application to application, and transport layer works from host to host. Host means sender to the receiver. Now when we are sending our message, the message may pass through different number of networks. Internet layer and the link layer, they work as network to network, that is from one network to the another network. So moving ahead. So we have discussed about all these 5 layers and how these 5 layers work. So the 5 layers are physical layer, network access layer, internet layer, transport layer, and the application layer. Now in the next lecture, we are going to discuss each of these layers in detail, and I stop my lecture over here. The next part will be covered in the next lecture. So thank you so much.